back again, and we'll start discussing about the remaining topics. Okay, I think they made some view change again, so it's in a preview mode. That's fine. So we discussed about certain details about the users yesterday. Okay, I'm coming back here and I'm going back to the user tab here. When I click on users, okay, yesterday we have created a bulk user operation. Okay, so this is how we can create the new users and bulk user creation. So did you get a chance to create install the PowerShell modules related to the Azure Active Directory? Okay, so if not, okay, so try to do it. So maybe probably go through the document which I have shared and try to install the modules and try to practice creating a users using PowerShell. Okay, so let's say if at all if you wanted to have more details, you could say Azure Active Directory, or else I would say Azure AD user creation PowerShell. Okay, so here you could see some of the Microsoft related documents itself related to how you can create a users using PowerShell. Okay, new AD user, and you have to provide certain details. Okay, so this could be the one of the example. So new AD user, display name wanting to give, let's say your name or my name. Okay, and password you have to give, and this password they have defined as a variable in the beginning itself, and you have to give the user principal name, that is your email ID, and account enabled. Yeah, so by default once you create an account, so you should be able to log in. And if at all if you wanted to have any kind of nickname or something, okay, you can keep it like this. Okay, so let me come back here, try to practice it with the PowerShell also, and if you face any difficulty, please do let me know. In addition to that, okay, so here we have a MFA, that is multi-factor authentication. Let's say if I click on this particular multi-factor authentication, so by default, okay, it will be navigated to the separate, page, okay, wherein you can enable the multi-factor authentication for your users. Let's say yesterday I have created a user called a ROM, right? So I'll enable a multi-factor authentication for this particular user. Okay. Let's say here, okay, I'll choose this particular, user, and I'll say click on enable. Okay, enable multi-factor authentication, and if you see, multi-factor authentication is now enabled for the selected account. That means I have selected a multi-factor authentication for this particular user. Let's see what will happen. Okay, whenever I try to log into this particular user. Okay, so let me come back here and let me take out this particular is a complete ID. So I'll go back here and enter the portal.azure.com, and I'll log in with this particular user account which I have created yesterday, and I would say yeah. So as soon as I log in, by default, okay, here it is asking me to help us protect your account. Okay, when I click on next, so by default, okay, it will ask you to set up a multi-factor authentication login. Can you see? Microsoft authentication. Okay, this we can do it okay two ways. One is like a authenticator app, or else okay we can do it by using phone also. Okay, so whenever you join any organizations, by default, okay, your account will be enabled with a multi-factor authentication. Okay, they will give you some temporary password like yesterday what we have seen when you create a new user, and as soon as you enter that particular temporary password, it will ask you to create a new password. So once you create a new password and once you click on next, in the next step it will ask you to set up the multi-factor authentication. I'll tell you what is the advantage by having a MFA, that is multi-factor authentication. Let's say you're working in a team, okay, and you're working on a 24/7 support or maybe operations. Okay, you are in the morning shift and your shift timing should be like a morning 6 to afternoon 2. Okay, you are using the Azure portal. Okay, so in a browser, and you are using a common system, let's say. Okay, so while you are going out, okay, while you are leaving, you forgot to sign out from your account, or maybe you just simply closed it. Okay, what will happen if I simply close it? Okay, let me show you here. Let's say I'll simply close this particular Azure account browser. Okay, so the next guy who comes, okay, and if you say portal.azure.com, by default, okay, your login will be appeared because you might be having some cache or something you might have saved. Okay, so for that particular person, okay, he will get your login. So whenever he get your login, he might do something. Let's say he deleted some, he made some mistake, let's say, imagine. Okay, that will be counted on your name because this is your login. And let's say any bad, okay, he might have deleted certain things. Let's say it is a production environment, he deleted something, and that will be recorded on your name. Okay, so somebody goes here, okay, and they will try to look into this particular activity log, and that log, okay, will be recorded on your name. And okay, like this, okay, so what are all, okay, how done, okay, that log will be recorded on your name, and by default you will be fired, or you might be you will be in a trouble. Okay, to avoid this such a scenarios, okay, we will enable this particular multi-factor authentication. Okay, so whenever you enable a multi-factor authentication along with your password, for every login, it will ask you for a certain OTP or authenticator app notification. So that is additional security that you are providing for your application. Let's say if somebody comes and try to log into your account also, it will ask you either OTP or approval on your authenticator app, so that you will come to know somebody is trying to access your account. Okay, so that you can deny that particular approve. Okay, you can deny that request. Okay, so for setting up this particular MFA, that is multi-factor authentication, we have like Microsoft Authenticator app. Okay, you can just go to the Play Store on your mobile, and let's say Microsoft Authenticator app. Okay, so this is the Microsoft Authenticator app. Okay, probably from your Play Store on your mobile. Okay, you can just download it. Okay, you can just simply download it, and whenever somebody tries to log in, okay, they will get a pop-up like this. Okay, no sign in request for your Microsoft account, you have to approve it on your mobile number. Okay, once you approve it only, then and only other guy, okay, is allowed to log in. If not, okay, we can also have a OTPs like this. Can you see here? This particular MFA we can enable for multiple accounts. Let's say Dropbox, Slack, Facebook, Outlook, or maybe GitHub. Okay, for everything you can have it. So let's say, okay, here it is some showing some OTP. So this OTP you can enter it here, and you can just uh, access your account. So that is the additional advantage of by keeping this particular MFA. So for this, okay, I need to let's say I'll go with a mobile here. I wanted to use a different method, and let's say, okay, I think, okay, they made both the things as a mandatory. Let's see if I go back next. After downloading the app, okay, you have to scan this particular thing, and it will be coming appeared. And let's say I want to use a different authenticator app. Okay, so I think they made the both the options as a mandatory. You have to set up the app, at the same time you have to set up the phone. So for now I'm not going to set it up. Okay, so I don't wanted to download app, authenticator app, and all this stuff, since I already have it. So maybe probably just try you from your side. Okay, just go to this particular no, download this app, go to the next, and okay, so it will ask you to give certain details. Let's say if not, okay, if I go here, okay, it will ask you to scan this particular QR code. Once it is scanned, okay, all the details will be captured. You can go to the next, and you will be entered with some certain notification. Okay, that particular 6-digit code will be shown on that particular app. You have to enter it, and you have to click on next. After that, okay, it will ask you for the setting of the phone also. For the phone, you have to give your mobile number. So once you pass the mobile number, okay, it will also ask you to the OTP. So you can just set it up. And whenever you try to log in, for every time, it will ask you for the approval or OTP. Okay, this is the advantage of having this particular MFA, that is multi-factor authentication. This is very, very important. Okay, even if you try to log into your any Gmail account also, it will ask you for the authentication, right? It will give you certain pop-ups asking you to choose certain number, or else, okay, it will ask you to send you certain OTPs on your mobile number. So that is called multi-factor authentication. It provides additional security for your application, right? So this is something about multi-factor authentication. And let's say if at all if I wanted to log in, okay, so let's say yesterday I have created some users here, right? I'll go with this particular user account, and I forgot my password. I don't remember my password. So to reset my password, I can simply choose the person. I can simply choose the user account, and I can just say reset password. Just click on reset password and just click on reset password. So when you reset a password, okay, so you will be getting a temporary password. Okay, you have to copy the temporary password and give it to the user. And whenever the user tries to access this particular account for the first time, okay, when after the reset, again it will ask you to set a password. Let's see that now. I'll copy this account. I'll go back here. Let me close all of this and I'll open a new window. Okay, let me give that user account and let me copy the password as well. This is the temporary password, and whenever you enter the temporary password in the next login, okay, it will ask you to update your password. So let's give the temporary password, and here you have to give your own password. Let's say I'll give certain unique password here. Okay, let me click on sign in. So this I will skip it for now. This here also it is asking you to set up a multi-factor authentication, but that's fine. Can you see I just log into the this particular user account. So this is how, okay, so we'll be resetting the passwords and enabling the multi-factor authentication, or if at all if you wanted to delete certain users. Let's say, okay, so here I wanted to, if at all if I wanted to delete certain users, okay, I can just simply choose the user account. I can just simply delete the user. Okay, so this is how, okay, so you can perform the creation of the users and the creation of bulk users and resetting the passwords and enabling the multi-factor authentication. Okay, so in addition to that, okay, so here we have one more activity, that is sign-ins. Okay, I was telling you, right? Let's say if at all if you wanted to monitor, okay, the entire login details of your portal. Okay, let's say you're working for any company, and within your company you wanted to monitor their entire login details. Okay, who are logging into your account and from which region, okay, they are logging everything. If at all if you wanted to monitor, you can just click on sign in page here. The sign in page is available, okay, on the under manage also somewhere here. No, under monitoring you can just go to the sign in page here also. Okay, and you can choose a day, like in a time range, like let's say if at all if you wanted to see last 24 hours, like user details, who is accessing my account. Let's say, okay, at this moment, okay, I just logged in. Okay, this is today's date, and you can see the date of when I have logged in. And I also logged in with a one more user account that is called rom. Okay, in a different mode, and that particular status is interrupted because I did not log in properly, because I did not set up any multi-factor authentication. And you can see their IP addresses also. Here you could see this is my IP. Let's say I'll go back to the portal. I would say what is my IP, because my internet provider might be given certain IP. Let's say I wanted to have my IPv4 IP. Let me come back here and let me click on it here. And here, okay, it will display my IPv4 address, and this is my IPv4 address. Okay, so my internet provider has assigned a separate IP for me. So that is the IP, that is 49.37.153.65. 49.37.153.65. Okay, you can easily trace, okay, from which IP address, okay, this particular user is accessing this particular portal. And you can also see the geography. I think, okay, this geography is something wrong. I'm not sure why is it saying like this. Currently I'm not in Hyderabad, like in a Telangana, but still it is showing, I don't know, I'm not sure. And you could see it is giving something different. Okay, yesterday when I joined, okay, so this was my IP, and it is showing something different location. That is fine. And here you could see some other user, okay, who joined, okay, portal by using this particular Azure Data Factory, and this is her ID. And sorry, she joined from this particular location. Okay, likewise, okay, you can monitor the entire login details. Okay, who is logging at what time and from which ID, and over there request IDs also you can see monitor. Okay, this is something like a sign in page, okay, which is very useful if at all if you wanted to monitor complete logins of your portal. Okay, so let me come back here and let me go back to the user accounts again. Yeah, so I think okay, this is pretty much okay related to the user accounts. Okay, so let's say if at all if you have any problems, okay, so with respect to the user accounts, just simply go here and you can just see here. Okay, I can't delete a user from a directory. Okay, what could be the problem? Okay, so those things okay, you can see. Let me come back here to the main active directory and let me discuss about the groups. So this groups also very important. Let me come back to the groups. So whenever we create a new subscription, right, on an active directory level, okay, we created certain security groups and we will be assigning those groups on a subscription level. Let's say okay, I'll create certain security groups here now. Okay, I'll create a new group and here okay, so I'm going to create a new security group and I'll give the group name as a let's say I'll keep it as a owner and I'll say owner group. Okay, you can specify your project name also or subscription name also if at all if you want it, but I'm just giving like owner uh, as in May 2021 like that I'll give. Okay, and if you want, if at all if you wanted to give certain description you can give, and if at all if you wanted to assign any owners or members, okay, you can select from here. Let's say as a owner I'll choose myself and okay, and as a members okay I'll choose anyone here. Okay, let's say if at all whomever I choose, okay, so they will be getting a default owner access. Let's say for now, okay, let me choose any one of the account. Yeah, I'll choose this particular account. Okay, and I can just click on create. This groups I'm creating on a AD level, that is Active Directory level. Okay, so going forward, okay, I'll walk you through the different use case here. Let me quickly create few more groups here. Let's say here, okay, the group name I'll name it as a contributor, and contributor AZ May 2021 like that. And let me assign the owners as myself and members, okay, also I'll assign someone else and let me click on create. Okay, similarly I'll create a one more group for the reader. Let's say I'll name it as a reader AZ May 2021 and let me assign certain owners as well as members. Coming to the members, okay, you can add multiple members also, but just to show you a demo, I'm adding a one member here. So if you see here, I have created three groups. One is owner, contributor, and reader. So why I'm creating this particular security groups is for this particular subscription going forward. If at all, if somebody wants to have a let's say owner access, I don't need to go to subscription every time and add the particular user into that particular adding as a owner on a subscription level. I can simply add that particular user into this particular group. Let's see how we can do that. So typically, when a new subscription is onboarded, okay, so we will be creating a certain AD groups. We call it as a security groups. That groups, okay, by default, okay, we'll be assigning on a subscription level. Okay, I'll go back here. I'm going to the subscription. Here you are aware, right? Okay, if at all if I wanted to grant a permissions to the groups, okay, I can go. I can come here. It is same as like giving an access to the users. And let's say here, okay, I'll click on add and add role assignment. Okay, I'll go with the owner first. Let me choose the role as a owner. And here if you see the assign access to, okay, earlier we have seen how to grant a permission to the users. So whatever the email IDs, whatever you have seen it here, right? So these are all for the users. Now let's see how we can grant a permissions to the groups. Okay, so I'm creating a groups now, right? So let's say I have created a group called owner. Okay, so this is the group, okay, which I have created. Let me choose the group and let me click on save. So now I have added a group into the owner account. So let's see once it is added, okay, how it looks like. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, this is the owners tab and you could see the type. Okay, so this is the group. Okay, in within your organization subscription page also, okay, under IAM you might be having a users groups. Okay, you should be able to identify by looking at this particular feature. Okay, so instead of they giving access like this individual, what they do is, okay, they will create a group. azure.com. Okay, if it yeah, I'll choose this particular account. Okay, and I can just click on create. This groups I'm creating on a AD level, that is Active Directory level. Okay, so going forward, and let me assign certain owners as well as members. And here, if you see the assign access to, okay, earlier we have seen how to grant a permission to the users. So whatever the email IDs, whatever you have seen it here, right? So these are all for the users. Now let's see how we can grant a permissions to the groups. Okay, so I'm creating a groups now, right? So let's say I have created a group called owner. Okay, so this is the group, okay, which I have created. Let me choose the group and let me click on save. So now I have added a group into the owner account. So let's see once it is added, okay, how it looks like. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, this is the owners tab, and you could see the type. Okay, so this is the group. Okay, in within your organization subscription page also, okay, under IAM you might be having a users groups. Okay, you should be able to identify by looking at this particular feature. Okay, so instead of they giving a access like this individual, what they do is, okay, they will create a group and they will add assign that particular group to the respective roles. And going forward, let's say if somebody wants to have an access as a owner access, you don't need to add him directly here. You can just simply add that particular user into the group. It is very simple. Let's say if I go to the group and I can completely see overall having what access. Let's say if I go to the members, so here you could see, so she is the one, okay, who's present at this moment. Further, if I wanted to add any member, I can just click on add, and I can choose whomever I wanted to. Okay, add it here. Let's say, so it will show you all the details here. Let's say if at all if I wanted to add a certain user account, let's say I wanted to add this particular user account, I can just simply add it here. And by default, okay, this particular user account, okay, will be getting a owner access. Okay, and you can see the owner also. Only the owner can add the members into the groups. Okay, so this owner, okay, we typically keep as a like subscription owners, because he is maintaining the he knows, okay, who need what access on a subscription, right? So let's say similarly, let me quickly add a few more roles here. I'll add a contributor also. I'll choose the contributor, and this time I'm adding a group again. You can type either user account or a group or maybe service principal. Service principal also we'll discuss in maybe today itself. So let's say now, okay, let me add a contributor group. Okay, this is the group, and let me click on save. Similarly, let me add a reader group also. Okay, I'll go to here, I'll choose the reader access, and let's say I'll read, and this is the group, and let me click on save. Let's say if you have a support team, so whereas under that particular support team you have almost like a 30 to 40 members. Okay, so 30 to 40 team members are there. Instead of you giving individual access, like a going coming here, add a role assignment, and choose the role like a reader and giving their ID and saving it, instead of you doing it one by one, what you can do is simply you can create a group, and you can add the all complete those 60 members or 30 members into this particular group. Okay, let's say, let me keep it do refresh here. If I go to the role assignments, I can see overall having what access completely. And if I come down here, I could see reader. If somebody wants, let's say there are team of like 50 people, you can directly add those 50 people here into this particular group, and by default, okay, they will be getting a reader access. You don't need to add them manually again on a subscription level. This is how, okay, we generally create the groups on a Active Directory level, and we call it as a security groups, and we'll just simply assign them on a subscription. Okay, this is the best practice, okay, okay, within organizations, okay, we follow, okay, to manage the RBAC, that is role based access control. Okay, so this is something on a high level about the groups. Let's come back here, and you can have a certain details about the groups here. Let's say like like if at all if you wanted to see the logs of this particular groups, okay, you can just monitor from here. Okay, you could see like code directory and group management. Okay, everything you could see. Just now I have added this particular user, right? So all these details. Okay, so what I have done, okay, I have created a owner group and I have assigned him as a owner, and I have assigned her as a member. Later I have created a contributor group and I have them as a owner or contributor. Okay, so you can just monitor each and every activity what I'm performing on the this particular group level. Okay, if somebody, let's say, okay, on this particular owner group, if somebody was added, okay, so who has initiated that activity, everything you can monitor here. Okay, this, I have added this particular user into the owner group. Okay, here you could see who has initiated this event, right? Let me come back here. So this is something, pretty much about the groups. And if you go to the external identities, I think this external identity features, let's say, if at all, if you wanted to authenticate, like, any one of the external, applications, like let's say Facebook or a Google, using your AD credentials, okay, this particular feature will be useful. But for this, okay, we cannot test it at this moment because, okay, we need to have either premium 1 and premium 2 capabilities to do this one. Okay, I'm not going to cover in detail of this particular one. And if I go to the roles, okay, yesterday we discussed about the roles in detail, what type of roles we have on an active directory level. And if you wanted to have a complete privileges, you should have a global administrator. This is the role. This is a role I already have it. And coming to the administrative unit, okay, so I think, okay, they have introduced this feature very new. And if I click on add, let's see what are they here. Let's say test admin, I'll go to the assigned. Okay, so like, we can create some custom role for administrative level role. Okay, so like, to perform certain activities. Okay, so password administrator, or just, a group administrator. Okay, so we can just have a separate administrative unit for that. Maybe that is a, that is a future here. Maybe I'm not going to cover this also. And coming to the enterprise applications, so we can register certain enterprise applications here, and we can have a active directory authentications for this application. Let's say if I click on a new application, okay, we can add any application here. Okay, an application hosted on a AWS, GCP, and Oracle. Okay, these are the cloud providers only. And in addition to that, okay, we have a SAP solutions, or maybe add on-premises application. Okay, application proxy, everything. Okay, we can add it here. Okay, in addition to that, okay, if I go back here, uh, let's say, okay, so to you are in the new and improved app gallery experience, click here, switch back to the legacy app gallery experience. I think that is what I'm looking. Okay, this is a new look. Let me go back here. Yes, so here you could see complete, these many categories. We can register these many categories, applications. Let's say if I go to the social, okay, I can see all the list of applications which are related to the social media. Okay, if I keep coming down, okay, these are all the application, okay, across the globe, not only in India. Okay, so if I keep coming down, you could see Facebook. Okay, I can register this particular Facebook application with my, EAD also. Okay, if I keep coming down, okay, I can see the Instagram, I can see the LinkedIn. Okay, likewise, okay, we can see the many more. Okay, let's say if I add this particular LinkedIn page, okay, I need to, use Microsoft AD to enable the user access to LinkedIn. So requires an existing LinkedIn subscription. You should have a LinkedIn, and the publisher could be corporate LinkedIn corporation. And here, okay, we are enabling the single sign-on mode, and this will be the URL of this particular, thing, and click on add. So if at all, if you wanted to enable any single sign-on, that is SSO, okay, we'll be adding this enterprise application, and we'll be making certain changes on their code level. Okay, so that we cannot do it at this moment. Okay, we need to go to the, LinkedIn authentication page, and from there, okay, we need to exchange this particular certain, object IDs and application IDs. Then and only your, authentication will happen. Okay, here you could see I registered one application. Okay, so from the gallery, and to achieve this particular, SSO, so we need to perform certain actions. This we cannot do it at this moment. If you have your own application managed by your company, that we can achieve it. Okay, so let me come back to here. This is how, okay, we can register certain enterprise application. Okay, let me come back. And we can also register the mobile devices. Okay, so this activity also we cannot do it at this moment. And if I keep coming down, yeah, app registrations. So on a subscription page, you see something called, when I go back here and click on add certain role, right? Okay, here you could see the assignment access to the user group and service principal. Okay, so this is the service principal is nothing but a app registration and active directory level. So we can create certain service principals. Okay, so this service principal, okay, is kind of, a super user, I would say. Let's say if at all if you wanted to perform certain deployment, let's say an example. Okay, you need to authenticate to Azure portal, right? Okay, so let's say there are team of 10 people. I cannot grant a permission to each and every user, okay, just for having a deployment. Or if not, okay, I cannot grant a permission to the single user, and others cannot use the uh, login details of that particular user. To avoid those scenarios, okay, what we can do is, okay, we can create a separate app, that is service principal. And when you create a service principal, a separate details, we'll see what are the details will be coming. Okay, I'll go to the new registration, and I would say here test, and click on register. When I created a test service principal, I'm getting a certain application ID, we call it as a client ID, object ID, and tenant ID. So these are the details, okay, we need to collect, okay, for authenticating to Azure. Okay, so it is kind of a super user, and in addition to that, we also need to have a password. So here you could see the secret. So we can authenticate using certificate and client secret also. So probably let's say this client certificate, this we need to have a client certificate. So at this moment, okay, we cannot generate any certificate. Okay, let's go with a secret. I can click on new client secret, adding, and I can just give a certain description, like let's say test key, and I can choose the expiry date. I would say 6 months or 3 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, or if at all if you wanted to customize it, you can say. Let's say I'll keep it as a 12 months. Okay, and click on add. You can see it here. So this is the secret, that is the password for this particular service principal. And whenever you create a this particular secret, right, you have to copy it immediately. If you go back and look into that particular secret again, you will be not able to see it. Though if you are a owner of this particular service principal or app registration, you will be not able to do it. Let's say I'll go back here completely. I'll navigate to the Azure Active Directory once again. Here you could see Azure Active Directory, and here I'll go back to the app registrations. So here my own app registration is a test. Under a test, if I go back to this particular secret again, okay, so I think, okay, I have to do a refresh. It is having some catch here. Okay, by default it will be hidden like this, and you will be not able to recover the value. Okay, if you completely forget it, okay, you don't have any solution to recover this particular key. So that is the reason whenever you create a secret, by default, okay, you have to copy that secret in the beginning itself. If you forget it, you can just delete it, and you have to create a new client secret. Okay, by having these details, okay, we will be authenticating to Azure portal. Okay, let's see how we can do this. uh, I can achieve it, okay, by using Azure CLI commands also. Let's say if at all if I wanted to authenticate to Azure portal, so what I need to do is I have to grant a permissions on a subscription level also. Okay, so I'll go back to the retail account. I'll go to the IAM, and let's see, okay, overall having what access. Before I go ahead and add the users, and I can just click on add a role assignment. And let's say if I wanted to give a contributor access for this particular service principal. Okay, so till now we have seen granting a permission to the users on your subscription, and just now we have seen granting a permissions to the groups, and we now we are going to grant a permission to the service principal. Let's say I just named it as a test, right? Here you could see the service principal that is coming as a test. Let me click on save. And let's see, when I add a service principal on my subscription, what is the type it is coming? Let's see. Okay, can you see, as a contributor for my test, it is coming as an app. So when you go to your subscriptions, okay, when you go to this particular role assignment tab, Okay, you could see these many different type of user types here. Okay, somebody might be having a user account access, somebody might be having a group access, and whenever you see an app, that is a service principal which is created on a active directory level. Okay, so I said, okay, I have created a user account like a kind of service account, and I have granted a contributor access, right? Let's see how can I authenticate to service Azure portal now. Okay, so if at all if you don't know, let's say I say Azure CLI command to log in using service principal. Okay, I'll go to the docs. Okay, sign in with the CLI. So you can see this is the command, okay, we discussed, okay, in the beginning, AGCLI. In addition to that, okay, in the Microsoft documentation itself, okay, you can give the complete username and password in the command itself. This is another way. And in addition to that, okay, you could say sign in with the service principal. Okay, you can just create a one single service principal, and we can pass that service principal detail to all the team, and everybody can log in with the same credentials. Let's say I'll come back down. Yeah. So this is the URL, like command ag login. I'm logging with the service principal. I need to give the app URL. I need to give the password or a certificate, and I need to give the tenant ID. Okay, so if you wanted to log in with a different tenant, okay, you could see these are some of the details. Let's say for now, let me copy this command. Let me authenticate it here. I'll go up. Yeah, service principal. And if at all if you don't have a service principal, you can see create a Azure service principal with Azure CLI. How to do it? And just simply copy it. Once you create a service principal, make sure that, okay, you have to grant a permissions on a subscription. Otherwise, okay, you will be not able to authenticate. Let's say I'll keep it here. Okay, and let me put as a word back. Yeah, what I'm doing AZ login, doing service principal, and I have to give the user, that is app URL. Let me copy the app URL here. I'll come back here. I'll go to this particular app registration. Let me go to the active directory. Let me go to this particular app registration. So this is the service principal is the name test, and this is the application URL. Okay, so I need to copy this, and I'll just replace it here, and I need to give the password. Okay, so this is a password secret I generated, right? Simply copy it, and I'll put it here, and I need to pass the tenant ID. Okay, so this is the tenant ID. Simply copy it and paste it here. What I'm taking in a high level here completely, AG login is a login. For the service principal details, I'm taking a principal ID. Okay, when you create a app registration, this is the application ID. I'm taking this. In addition to that, I'm taking a password and a tenant ID. Let me try this now. Copy it. I'll open a CMD, and I'll simply paste it here. And let's click on enter. Okay. Can you see? I'm able to log into the particular subscription. My subscription name is free trial, and my tenant ID is like double B84. Okay. Can you see here? Okay, I have mentioned my tenant ID as a double B84. Okay. So let's say if at all if I wanted to list something, let's say I wanted to list AZ group list. Okay, this is to list out my all the resource groups. If I click on enter, it will list all my resource groups. Okay, can you see these are all the resource groups I have on my subscription. Okay, I have a resource group called my network RG01. Let's see whether we have it or not. I'll go back to the resource groups. My network project 01, we have it. So since this particular service principal is having a contributor access and a subscription, we can create a new resource group or new resource also. Okay, same as like instead of you log in with your own account, we can create a service account, and we can grant a permission, and we can do substance deployment using this particular service principal. So this service principal majorly useful, okay, when you perform like complete automations, like maybe like using ARN templates and a Terraform for authenticating to the Azure portal. But in a this way also we can simply authenticate. So this is how, okay, we can create an app registration. So that is pretty much okay how we can use the app registrations and all other stuff. And this licensing and the rest of the details, okay, yeah, we have seen this company branding also, resetting the password. Yesterday we have seen, right? Okay, company branding, okay, and password reset, okay, we have seen. And if you go to the user settings, okay, under the user setting by default, okay, this particular option will be disabled in your organizations. Okay, user can register the applications. That means, okay, this particular app registration by default you will be not allowed to do this activity, okay, because you will be having a separate active directory. So within your active directory tenants, okay, you will be having this as a no by default. And if at all if you wanted to link any account connections, okay, you can make some user account settings here. And if I go to the properties, I can see the complete details of this particular active directory tenant. And these are the some of the monitoring solutions which we have already seen. And if you have any issues, okay, you can go ahead and raise a support request with the Microsoft. And now let me quickly discuss one more final topic which is very important, that is AD Connect. Okay, so we discussed, right? If at all if you wanted to migrate your on-premises user accounts to Azure Active Directory, okay, we use a tool called AD Connect. Okay, this is very important even for the interviews. Okay, so let's say they might ask you, I have my on-premises users, I wanted to migrate them into the Azure Active Directory, is it possible? Yes. If yes, what is how you do it? We achieve it, okay, using a tool called AD Connect. Okay, manage our on-premises resources, authentication configuration and on-premises infrastructure using Azure AD hybrid services. Okay, if at all if you wanted to learn more, just click on it here. You will be navigated to this particular scenarios, okay, where and where, okay, we use these and how to do this and all other stuff, right? So let's come back here. So let me quickly show you before we go ahead and show you a demo, I'll open a paint here. Okay, so here, okay, what I'm going to do here now is, okay, let's say this is your on-premises Active Directory setup. So your on-premises Active Directory setup, we call it as a ADDS, that is Active Directory Domain Services. So within our on-premises, if you wanted to have a AD setup, okay, we do enable this particular feature called ADDS. And within this, okay, you will be having a certain domain name or a forest. Let's say, okay, yesterday I have shown you something, right? Something like a wipro.com. Okay, let's say wipro.com. So this could be your on-premises domain name. And within a domain, let's say you might be having certain user accounts. Okay, let's say you might be having a username as a, okay, I'll just name it as user 1, user 2, user 3, okay, user 4. Likewise, you might be having some thousands of users, okay, who are working on your organization. Okay, so your company recently taken a Microsoft Azure subscription, and they decided to go to the cloud, and you wanted to migrate these user accounts to Azure Active Directory also. Okay, so let's say this is your Azure. Okay, so this is your Azure account, Azure tenant, that is Active Directory tenant, that is AAD. AAD, I'll simply name it, that is Azure Active Directory. Okay, so all this particular user who are all having see, let's say for example, if you go on and join any organization, right, by default, okay, your user account will be created on your uh, on-premises Active Directory. Okay, so by default, okay, so if I wanted to migrate this particular user accounts to Azure Active Directory also, we use this particular tool called AD Connect. Okay, let me try to keep some different. Yeah, let me go with it. Okay, so this is the tool that I'm going to use. Okay, this tool name is like a AD Connect. So we can migrate entire users. We can migrate group policies. We can have a same username and password. Let's say for this particular user account, if I have a certain password, I can log into the Azure portal by using same username and password. Okay, we have a password has synchronization also. Okay, all the complete details will be migrated to Azure, Azure Active Directory. And whenever, let's say, this user accounts will be still there on your on-premises Active Directory, but okay, we're just syncing this particular user accounts to Azure Active Directory. Let's say if I create a new user account, okay, here, okay, so a new user is joined, and that user name I'll just name it as a user 5. So by default, okay, so this particular user account will be synced with the Azure Active Directory, because okay, when install, when you perform this AD Connect, there are two service accounts will be created, that those accounts are a synchronization accounts. So by default, if there are new user accounts or any new groups, okay, but those groups and those accounts will be by default synced with the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so to achieve this particular demo, okay, what we are going to do is, so we need to have a certain VM. Okay, let's say on premises VM. Okay, so since we do not have any on premises setup, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a VM on Azure, and I will enable a separate service called ADDS within that. And after creating enabling this particular ADDS service, I will create a separate forest or a domain, okay, within this particular server. And then after, okay, I'm going to create a certain users. So once I create this particular user accounts, and by using this particular tool called AD Connect, we'll see how we can migrate this particular user accounts. Okay, so to achieve this particular scenario, let me go ahead and create a server. Okay, I'll go back to the portal, and I'll go back to the create a resource, and I create any one of the Windows server. I have to use the Windows server only to have a Active Directory setup. Let's say here, okay, I'll just create it as a on-prem AD server RG, and let's say 01. Okay, let me give this name as like on-prem AD VM 01. I'll give just to identify, and I'm going to with the Southeast Asia as a default. I'm not giving any high availability, and let's say I'll choose the 2016 data center here, and I need a minimum 2 virtual CPUs 8 GB RAM to achieve this. And let me give some username. I'll say Azure user as a username, and let me pass some password. Okay, so and the rest of the details I'm going with the defaults. Let me click on add. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a server, and I'll imagine it that as a my on-premises server, and we'll see how we can enable this particular Active Directory domain services within the server. Okay, let me quickly create it. And if you see here, okay, this deployment is in progress now. So we'll wait for 1 minute. So I'll go back to this particular resource group, and in here, okay, let me keep do refresh. Okay, so that I can see the resources to be created. So I'll meantime, okay, let me try to quickly walk you through the document. Let's say Azure AD Connect. Okay, you could see step by step here. You might be finding certain blocks here, or maybe let me go back to the Microsoft document itself. Okay, getting started with Azure AD Connect. Okay, using Express settings. Okay, how you can install this particular setup, all this. Okay, we'll see now. Okay, if I go up, so what are the prerequisites we needed? Okay, how everything. Okay, you can see it here. We need an on-prem Active Directory that we are going to do it now. We also need a PowerShell execution policies to be set by default. Okay, let's come back here to the portal. Let me do a refresh. Yeah, I have my VM ready. Let me go to the VM, and which is already up and running. Let me take the RDP of this VM, and let's say MSTSC, and I'll put this particular IP. Let's say Azure user is the username, and let me give the password. And you can see this is my VM name. Let me click on yes. So I just created a VM on Azure, and I'll just imagine this VM as my on-premises VM. Okay, and here I'm going to set up a Active Directory setup. Okay, so Here, okay, now I'm going to enable this particular ADDS service. Let's come back to the VM now. So let me click on say no. So once I have this particular server manager, so from the server manager, if you remember in the beginning, if at all if I wanted to enable the IIS, that is web services. So we went there and we have added that particular feature, right? If you remember. Same way here, if we need to add that particular feature now. Okay, if you remember, we went into this particular add roles and feature. Okay, so just click on this particular add roles and feature. I think still it is collecting the inventory data. Let's wait for it. Yeah, let me try it again. I can just go ahead and add a roles and feature. And as soon as I add, okay, I can go to the next, next, and next. And here, okay, from this particular roles, we have seen how we can enable the web server in the beginning. Hope you remember. Okay. So in the same way, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable a separate service called Active Directory Domain Services. This is a ADDS. If at all, if you wanted to have a Active Directory setup on a server, we have to enable this particular feature. Okay, let's say I'm enabling this particular Active Directory domain services. When I enable this particular services, these are all the features which are coming as a default. That setup also, let me show you certain. Go to the next, and here you could see if at all if it is needed. Okay, so I'm putting as a restart immediately if it is required, and let me click on install. So what I'm doing now, so I just created a on-premises VM. So I created a VM manager and I'm imagining that VM as my on-premises VM, and I'm enabling this particular ADDS service, okay, to have a Active Directory on my local system. Okay, once we have it, we'll be creating a separate domain name or a forest, and within that forest, okay, I'm going to create the users for today. And once we have this particular setup, we'll see how we can migrate those users to Azure Active Directory maybe tomorrow. Okay, let's see, it is still in progress. In the meantime, okay, how we can set up this particular entire setup also, let me show you certain documents here. Uh, Enable ADDS on Windows 2016 server. Okay, so you could see certain blocks also how we can set up. Okay, set up Active Directory on your Windows server. So this is what I'm doing now. So I went into this particular add roles and features, and I have added this roles and features, and here I have added this particular Active Directory domain services. Okay, so here I have added everything. Okay, so once it is done, okay, so you will be able to see the particular features here. If I keep coming down, so after you downloading, okay, we have to perform this particular post you will be getting a certain notification here for the configuration of the post deployment, and here you could see on the left hand side this particular ADDS feature will be enabled. Okay, and within this post deployment configuration, okay, I need to create a certain new forest. It could be anything like wipro.com, any like test domain dot internal, whatever it is. I have to give a certain domain, and I need to give certain passwords, and I need to create a certain DNS here. Okay, this is the by default DNS will be coming, and those data will be stored by default into this particular paths, and I can just click on create. Once it is done, I can go back to this particular Active Directory users and computers, and from there, okay, I can go to this particular domain, and here I can go to the domain controller, and from there, okay, I can just create a user accounts. Okay, let's say, okay, so these are the things, okay, I can just simply do it. Okay, if I go to this particular users, okay, I can see the user, what are the users we have. All right, okay, let me come back here and view installation progress. The request to add or remove features to the specified server failed. Why? Installation of one or more roles or services or features are failed. Okay, let me close it and try it again. Let me add it, and I'll go with the defaults. Let me click on install. Let's see if you get the same error. What? Okay, so this time it is working, it seems. Okay, we can see the progress. Okay, 57% is done. Okay, let's wait for to be completed that. And now if you see, okay, so installation is in progress. Configuration required. Okay, installation is succeeded. Okay, this installation is done. Okay, let me close it. And once the installation is done, okay, here you are able to see this particular ADDS feature is coming up here. Okay, And here, okay, after that, okay, here you could see some warning here. Configuration required for Active Directory domain services at on-prem ADVM. And the same thing, okay, you can just see from here also. Okay, so here you could see poster deployment configuration which is pending. So you just need to, click on this, and here you have to give certain domain name. Let's say here, okay, since I'm talking about a Wipro, okay, I'll say Wipro here. Okay, so I would say wipro.com. Okay, and I can just, sorry, I need to create a new domain. It is not, that is something for the already existing ones. Okay, I would say wipro.com. Okay, I can go to the next, and here I need to give certain password here. So let me give some unique password, and let me go to the next. And I'm not going in any DNS delegation at this moment. And by default, okay, this domain name will be taken as a Wipro. Yeah, here we go. And okay, so these are the paths, okay, for storing certain log files. Okay, I'm going with the defaults. And here you can see the complete details review page, and I can go to the next, and I can say install. And here it will show you certain prerequisites, if at all, if you wanted to set up this particular things. And you might see certain warnings also, because okay, we can just simply ignore those warnings. Okay, let me click on install. Now I'm enabling this particular Active Directory domain services. That means I'm setting up an Active Directory on my local system. So you could say that entire installation is in progress. What is happening? Complete things. And here you could see the complete domain name Wipro and all the details. Okay, so once it is done, okay, we can just simply navigate to this particular tools. Okay, so wherein okay, we can just navigate to this particular Active Directory users and computers. So if you go there, okay, we can see all the user account details, and we can create a new users also, like whatever the users that we decide, thought of to create it and migrate to the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so let me come back here, and let's see the progress. So this installation is still in progress. So once it is done, I think okay, the system will be rebooted. Okay, so here you could see, so we are about to sign out. Okay, so let me click on close. Okay, the server was successfully configured as a domain controller. Okay, so when you rejoin again, okay, so your domain name will be showing as a wipro.com at the end along with your VM name. We'll see that now. Okay, so probably this is what okay we have set up today, and maybe how we can migrate this particular users, maybe we'll see tomorrow. Okay, so maybe probably from your side also, okay, try to set up this particular ADDS service, okay, by creating any one of the VM. And once you're done, okay, just turn off the VM, and we'll see how we can install this particular AD Connect, and how we can migrate these users to this particular Active Directory. Maybe probably we'll see tomorrow. Let's come back here. I'll say this particular specific documentation how to enable this particular ADDS service on the Windows server. Okay, just go through it and just enable it. Let's come back here, and if I do refresh, okay, this part the system should be by rebooting. Let's try to copy this IP again, and I would say msdsa again, and let me click on enter. Let me try to log in. It might be rebooting. Can you see now? Okay, here, okay, it is adding a domain called wipro.com at the end of my domain name. Okay, so earlier, okay, so when we create a virtual machine, right? So by default, okay, it has taken as a VM name as a domain name, like a host name, I would say. Sorry. Okay, so this is the host name of my server. Okay, so let's say if at all, since I have enabled this particular domain within that, okay, ADD service, okay, which is default coming as a wipro.com at the end. Okay, I can just click on yes, and here, okay, it will be applying this all these configuration details. Okay, it might take some time, hardly 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, for setting up this entire setup. Okay, so probably let's do one thing. Okay, let's wind up for now. Okay, you just practice till here, and let's see tomorrow how we can create the new users and how we can migrate those new users to the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so let me stop my recording here for now.